All right, I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Visitor Network TV and Channel 9. I'd like to say hello to our viewers in Down East Maine as well, who are joining us. It's great to have you. Our guest today is John Luce. John is a longtime summer resident of Nantucket and actually citizen of the town of Nantucket. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Dan.
John has been involved in several nonprofits on the island, and most recently the Boys and Girls Club renovation process in a way that I'll let him tell you. But before we talk about the Boys and Girls Club, let's talk for a moment about the Athenaeum,
Oh, yeah.
where you and I both spent
Yeah.
a number of years in service, as it will.
Yeah.
What, the Athenaeum really has taken great strides under your leadership and
Thank
the
you.
subsequent ones. And what's going on there now?
Well, and to be equally noted would be my trusted advisor and consigliere, Dan Drake, who served on the board of the Athenaeum along with me. It's about 15 years ago, I guess, we
getting
started
close,
something. And the Athenaeum was in trouble when we first got involved with it. Financially, it was in trouble. Town wasn't supporting it. The board probably could have been stronger. And along with Kurt Livingston and Dan Drake and myself, we sort of took this on. And I think it has been a remarkable success story. But you know, it reminds you when you get involved with a not-for-profit that's got issues, it could take 10 years. And now I think it's a wonderful board. It's not making money, you know, they can spend it as fast as they bring it in. But it's doing really well. A great executive director in Molly Anderson, and like I say, a really strong board.
And from a community perspective, their programming is really quite remarkable.
It is remarkable.
I often wish I could take advantage of it more than I do, just because of the time.
And especially over the winter.
Yeah,
They've got some
exactly.
great stuff in the wintertime,
Exactly.
yeah, up in the Great Hall, yeah.
The Boys and Girls Club.
Yes, sir.
What got you involved in that?
I was recruited, and it was a good friend who basically didn't ask, but basically said, you know, your time with the Athenaeum is obviously slid by, you're chair emeritus, and you know, you're backing away, and it's time for you to step up. So I made a trip over to the Boys and Girls Club. It's an exhilarating and stimulating place when you walk in there. When you walk in there and see the kids, especially seeing them walk across Sparks Avenue at 2:30 and they come. And listening to Phyllis McInerney and learning about the tremendous impact this institution has on the island, I was sold. I was sold right away. So on I came, and next thing I know,
You were presented with some plans?
yeah. So there was always a lot of chitter chatter about, you know, we need a new building, we need a new gym. That was always sort of, we need a new gym.
How many kids are served over there? Do you know?
There are about 650 members, and I say actively 300 a day are in there, 350 are in the basketball program. So do the math on that. 350 kids in basketball, 10 kids on a team, that's 35 teams. Now try scheduling that after school on weekends. What happens is all you have is games, and there's no practice, no coaching. And it's remarkable with what the athletic director and the coaching folks, volunteers, have done to bring that program along.
So, it was decided that there
So actually, it was a dream, and my co-chair, and I'm co-chairing this project with Chuck Geschke, who you know, we got a phone call out of the blue from the Nantucket Golf Club Foundation. And as you know, they give spread around about $1 million a year, every year, for all the, so many.
children-related
Children related, and they were always a supporter of, and for whatever reason, and I won't ask, they concluded that they had, I suppose, they had enough money that they had built up, that they wanted to make one significant gift to an important island kids organization. And they concluded, quite logically, that the highest impact organization on the island for kids is the Boys and Girls Club. So they came to us and said, we'll put up $1 million, but you have to match it. And Chuck and I blinked and said, how can we pass up on this? Very interesting. We anticipated it was going to be about a $3 million, $4 million project. Well, then you get underway, and Well, it started out with the basketball. So the basketball, we said, well, we'll build another gym and keep the old gym. Well, the old gym was old. You couldn't heat it.
That has to date back to what, to the 60s?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
So the kids who came in the morning were freezing to death, and by the time the heat came up later in the day, it was warming up, and it wasn't regulation size. It was very small. And so we concluded the best solution to that would be just knock it down. And we did a lot of, I'll say, business analysis on how many courts and how much basketball time the club could handle. And actually, we could handle a third court. I mean, there's enough volume, but there's no room for it, and it just isn't fiscally responsible. So we sort of came to that conclusion, and then we had this idea, and it sounded very elegant, that we really want to expand the learning center, or study hall, if that's what you want to call it, as well as the computer center. We said, well, we'll just put it underneath the gym, lower level. Well, then you start realizing to hold up a gym floor takes columns all over the place, and you'd have such a chopped up lower space that was impossible. And they said, okay, well, we'll go up above. Well, you know, gyms got huge ceilings. So that's when we came to the conclusion that there was a huge need for the learning center and study hall support and computer center. And that's when we decided to expand the current club. So rough numbers, the old club is about 10,000 square feet. We've added 10,000 square feet of new space, and then 15,000 square feet for a gym. So we've gone from, up to 35,000 square feet. It's a big facility.
Big facility,
yeah. And it's beautiful.
What's the price tag?
$10 million.
How much?
And we've been actually holding at $10 million for the last 4 or 5 months, which I'm really pleased with.
That's great.
Yeah.
How much have you raised?
We have raised, that's a secret.
Well, you still need some.
I know. Yeah,
You
we still need
I was
some.
going to ask somebody to write a check.
Well, you should ask someone. I'll ask them to write a check. So we've raised just over $9 million.
Oh, that's fabulous.
So we're in the home stretch, and we have a plan for
Anybody who wants to write a check for $1 million, please do.
or 10 of you for 100.
Well, let's start with think
Yeah, I
big.
know.
That's great, though. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the builder is actually, in many ways, a local guy.
He is, and a lot of people on Nantucket will know Dan Snyder.
Mark Snyder.
Mark Snyder. Yeah, Mark Snyder. And it was very interesting when...
Which he has a business.
He has a business,
that is specifically geared toward something
Yeah,
like
athletic
this.
facilities.
Athletic
So the funny story was we went to local architects, and it didn't take long for them to say, we can't deal with anything of this magnitude. But then we did work with Matt McEachern, who's on the board, and is the one really good commercial architect, and he's been unbelievably supportive. Then we started talking to builders who might do this. And it came back, we can't do this, we do residential on this island. So and then it was, okay, now what? And then someone came to me and said, there is a company in Boston, in Wayland, that specializes in athletic facilities. And they built maybe 100 in the Northeast. Tufts University was, I think, their most recent one. And they said, I think the guy's on Nantucket. So, what's his name? Mark Snyder. So I called him cold. Asked him if I
For
could...
those who don't know, Mark Snyder is the developer and owner of the Nantucket Hotel.
Right. So he invited me to come on down to the hotel, have a cup of coffee, and I told him what we were up to. And then I said, by the way, would your company be interested in building this, or quoting it, or anything? And his response was, now this isn't for us, it's off island, it's not all athletics, you've got other things going on in there, and I just don't know if this is, I'm not sure it was even big enough.
Right.
Well, short story, took me 3 trips down there, and finally Mark came out and said, I'll help.
Well, he came. You said he told me he came to the club and saw the kids.
Yeah, so that was sort of a scheme on our part. I invited him out to the club to look around, and I intentionally invited him at 2 o'clock, and intentionally sat him down at the conference room table that would look across Sparks, and I could just see his eyes around 2:20, watching all these kids come across, and then they parade into the club, and he's looking over his shoulder and he says, I get it. I totally get it now. And he has been enormously helpful all the way through this process. So Stanmar is the name of his company that his father and mother started some years ago. And they have done a wonderful job. Design and build, so we had a quoted price and no, overruns and all that. So, and that has been, and they got a great group of people. That
And his
work on
son
it.
is, Mark's son has been doing the,
Yeah, it's
been the
great.
project
Yeah,
manager,
yeah,
right?
Oliver, and I think this is one of his first projects, and he has been very responsive, very helpful, and they put some professional guys on the site. You see the little trailer out there, and,
Right.
and they're in there, and these guys know what they're doing, and they have a lot of experience. So yeah, we're real pleased with that.
When's it gonna open?
A week from Saturday, we'll have an open house on the 20th. Community, there was an ad in the Inky today from noon to 4, and we invite anybody, just stop by, walk around. You will be stunned by what you see inside, I think. And then the club opens that following Monday, the 22nd, for summer camp. And to do all that, Phyllis McInerney made a courageous decision. And that was to shut the club down in April and May so that all the renovation could be done. And then the whole two projects came together simultaneously as they have. And we'll open with a fresh facility in 10 days.
And some other organizations stepped up to the plate to try to alleviate the burden on working families. I don't know how successful that was, but at least they tried.
They tried.
Yeah.
The school district, by the way, has been very cooperative, supportive of what we do. Of course, they're across the street. And
Right.
there's an emergency. Our kids can go over there. If there's an emergency at the high school, their kids come over. That's part of the emergency plan. But it's a nice relationship.
That's good. So now that this is done, what's next, John?
Now we have to be able to pay for this on an annual basis.
Yeah, that's a good, very good point.
So operating costs will go up probably a couple $100,000, and we have to deal with that. It is one of the great bargains of all times. A kid pays, or a family pays for their kid, $30 a year. And when I tell that to friends around the country, they say, "You mean a month?"
No, I know. It's
$1 a
hard to
day,
believe.
right?
It's hard
I
to
said,
believe.
no, it's $30 for the year. And we've been benchmarking other boys and girls clubs around the country. I specifically went to meet with the chairman and executive director down in Vero Beach, and their number is $30 a month. Now, we're not going to go jumping our prices up,
Right.
but we will have to move on our pricing. When you see the club and you see the programs and the value there, it's worth every penny of it.
John, you've done a great job, and the
Thank you.
community should be very grateful to you.
Thank you, Dan.
And to Chuck for
Yes.
your efforts here. And thank you very much.
You're good.
Good to see you.
Thank you, as usual, Dan.